So the Republican governor of Kansas, Sam Brownback, has been a massive failure. His economic record is abysmal, and his policies have absolutely destroyed the state budget. Talking Points memo reports, quote, "The state's well-documented budget troubles came after Brownback's dramatic reductions in taxes since taking office in 2011. With its revenue drying up and cash reserves depleted, Kansas is staring at a $280 million hole in its $6.4 billion fiscal year 2015 budget." Now, a lot of people might hear that and they go, well, so what? $280 million deficit is, that's really not much, right? Well, when we're dealing with a state like Kansas, that actually is a lot, because it's really not densely populated, and it's a small state, and they don't have very many ways of raising the revenue, and this guy, of course, slashed taxes on the rich tremendously, and we see the result of it here. And also, if I'm not mistaken, there's in the state constitution in Kansas, I think they mandate that you have to balance the budget every single year. So draconian cuts are going to happen as a result of this. Now, he's not going to go back and repeal his ridiculous tax cuts to the rich and, not cut social services. He's going to go ahead and cut social services to try to balance that budget, so it's going to be on the backs of the middle class and poor people. So what's he really going to do? What are the specifics of what he's going to do? Well, other than cutting social services, so doing this on the backs of the middle class and the poor, quote, Brownback offered a mixture of spending cuts and transferring funds from other parts of the budget to fill it. And second biggest of those transfers is $55 million in revenue from a Medicaid drug rebate program that was bolstered under the Affordable Care Act. Ah, I see. So what happened here? Well, he got in trouble because this fiscal conservative left a massive deficit in his state, so he ran to Obamacare to save him. And this is the old Chris Christie trick, and a lot of other conservatives have done this as well, where you take money, federal dollars allocated for one thing, and you say, thank you for the money, now turn the fuck away and I'm going to use this in another area. So what Chris Christie did is he took a lot of FEMA money, and he also took money that was allocated for relief for people affected by the subprime mortgage crisis, and he used it to pay down the deficit in New Jersey, so that later he could come out and say, I balanced the budget, I cut taxes, and I balanced the budget, see? But what's he not telling you? He's fucking slashed pensions, slashed social services, and didn't use federal dollars that were allocated for helping the middle class and the poor to do that. He used it to pay down the deficit instead. That's exactly what he's doing, except this guy is incredibly vocal about how he hates Obamacare and he hates liberalism and he hates all these things. But what's he doing when he gets in trouble? He's like, please, I need the Obamacare dollars and I need to use that to fix the problem where I fucked up tremendously. So Obamacare is saving his punk ass. I can't get enough of stories like this because it exposes that they're frauds. It also exposes the entire story, exposes how this ideology is nonsense. There's so many conservative Republicans who wholeheartedly believe that if you cut taxes, that will lead to a balanced budget. Well, how the fuck do you come to that conclusion? If you cut taxes, you literally are cutting revenue into the government. So you're literally going to create a bigger hole in the budget. Of course, you're going to have a shortfall. But no, in their backwards minds, you know what they think? No, when we cut taxes, what's going to happen is you're going to unleash the beast of the capitalist private sector, and there's going to be so many more jobs created and so much more wealth creation that we're going to actually have a budget surplus when all is said and done. Well, time and time again, we see that that's not true. Under Ronald Reagan, it wasn't true. He left a record deficit and a record national debt. Under George W. Bush, it wasn't true. Record deficit, record national debt. Every time it's tried, the exact opposite happens. You cut taxes, all you're doing is giving more money to the rich. By the way, they don't even use that to create jobs, and you're leaving a tremendous deficit. So which one do you want? You have to pick one or the other. Do you want the tax cuts, or do you want the balanced budget? You can't have it both ways. But that's also part of a more nefarious trick, because usually what they do is, when a Democratic administration comes in after them, what do they argue? They say you can't do any spending on the middle class and the poor and any spending on job creation because you need to go ahead and balance this budget. God damn, the deficit is too high. Look at these Democrats causing the budget deficit. But you caused the budget deficit, and then you want the Democrats to come in and clean up the problem. That's what happened with when Clinton came in, and that's what happened when Obama came in, too. Bush left him a $1.4 trillion deficit, and then he turned around and said, well, God, look at the Democrats. They leave these tremendous deficits. You left the deficit. Now he's got to clean it up. So these guys, they're just giant frauds, man. They're giant frauds, and all he's doing is looking out for his buddies. That's what Sam Brownback is doing. And see, they all have to run to the liberal policies when they get in trouble. Oh, the money from Obamacare. Great, I can use that for my own purposes. You know, just like there was a report that came out recently from Harvard, of all places, which found that 17,000 people are going to die as a direct result of Republican governors not accepting the Medicaid expansion. 17,000 people will die simply because they're obstructionists and they don't want to accept anything that has Obama's name attached to it. Well, now what are they doing? A lot of the states now, including Kentucky, Mitch McConnell brought this up back during his debate. They're basically accepting Medicaid expansion, but they're using a different name for it. So they're taking credit for it, and the state is taking credit for it when, of course, the federal government is providing the funds, and they're providing the funds under Obamacare. So Mitch McConnell will say, I hate Obamacare, but I love this provision of Obamacare, which I'm going to call by a different name. Every time they get in trouble, they do the same thing over and over. They run to the liberal policies and pretend it's their own.